What will the righteous do if the foundations that he gave you for your life are destroyed? ¿Qué harás? Él sí te dio fundamentos. He did give you a foundation. This world rejects that. Este mundo rechaza eso. Y lo que vamos a seguir enseñando, el mundo lo odia y muchos no lo entienden. And what I'm about to continue to teach, the world hates, and even Christians don't really understand it. They don't appreciate it. Hay muchos cristianos que no lo aprecian porque están tan llenos de los caminos y lo que sea el entendimiento del mundo y por lo tanto no lo pueden captar. Because there are Christians that are so full of this world's ways and influences, they cannot appreciate it, they cannot understand it, therefore they don't like it. They reject it. Yo he tenido cristianos que se llaman cristianos y dicen que son salvos, me han dicho, no hay forma que yo voy a permitir eso en mi vida. No han dicho. I have heard Christians tell me when they talk about these things or they mention these things, have told me there's no way I'm going to allow this in my life. They've said that. God is watching them. And they've said it. Dios los está mirando como dice aquí en este salmo. Y todo lo que Él ha dicho aquí, de lo que Él manda, de lo que Él dice acerca de los planes de Él y de lo que Él odia y quién Él odia. Y Él sí odia. Como aquí hemos visto, Dios sí odia a gente. Aquí lo dice. And those people whom God here says, I hate them. They are the ones that are trying to influence you and tell you what your foundation should and shouldn't be. You have to decide, do I love God or do I allow myself to go with the influence of those that hate Him? Because that's what many Christians have said. I've heard them. Eso es lo que muchos cristianos han dicho. Y aunque hablan, declaran que no van a permitir algo que Dios ha dicho en la Biblia, se están uniendo con aquellos que odian a Dios y Dios odia. Ahora, con esto de introducción en Salmo 11, vamos a regresar a 2 de Pedro. So with this, as an introduction, I'm sorry, 1 Peter. Perdóname, 1 de Pedro. Ahora vamos a regresar a 1 de Pedro. Recuerda lo que se ha dicho. Remember what he said. Remember that he is the way. And when he is telling you something, there's a reason, and it's a good reason for it. Recuerda de cuando Él ha dicho algo y Él es el camino, que hay una buena razón por cual Él nos ha dicho y nos ha enseñado esto. Son los fundamentos que Dios ha puesto desde el principio. Remember, God gives us things for our good. He doesn't intend it for our bad. And from the beginning, He established these foundations for our lives. Desde el principio, Dios puso el orden que era bueno. Él dijo que lo creó todo y miró y era bueno en gran manera. Remember, God in the beginning, at the end of chapter 1, chapter 1 in Genesis, at the end of the chapter, He says that God beheld everything He had made, it was good in a great way. It was very good. Established those foundations. Él estableció esos fundamentos, esas fundaciones. Pero ¿qué hará el justo si se rompen los fundamentos? What will the righteous do if those foundations are broken? I'll tell you what they will do. They will come to ruin. Llegarán a la ruina. Jesús fue el que enseñó que los que me escuchan a mí, y yo soy Dios, Él lo declaró que era Dios y Él es Dios. Los que me escuchan a mí y ponen en práctica lo que yo he dicho, son semejantes a aquellos que levantan una casa, pero primero la establecen sobre una fundación, una roca firme. Tan firme que cuando venga una tremenda tormenta, La casa permanece porque está fundada sobre una fundación permanente, fuerte, una roca que no se mueve. Él es la roca de Dios. Jesus told us in the parable, or in the teaching better yet, that those who listen to me are as those that will build their house upon a rock, a solid foundation. And when those storms come, it won't fall. Because it's built upon the rock. Jesus said, I am that rock. David told me, he said, he's put my feet on a rock. David dijo, él ha puesto mis pies sobre una roca. You know what? I'm not going to fall. I'm not going to fall. ¿Sobre qué está fundada tu vida? ¿Sobre dónde están puestos tus pies? ¿Sobre qué has levantado tu vida? Upon what are your feet established? Upon what is the life that you have built standing on? En el capítulo 11 o el Salmo 11 dice que Él va a llover calamidades y tormentas sobre el malo, tormentas de fuego abrasador. Jesús nos dijo, el que no está establecido sobre la roca de lo que Él ha enseñado sobre él, su casa se derrumbará y se destruirá. Jesus told us that those that have not built their house upon the foundation of His word and His teaching, He is the way. When those storms that it talks about in Psalm 11 come, they will be destroyed. Their house can't rest there. Jesus declared it. What will the righteous do if their foundations be destroyed? They'll come to ruin. Their house will fall. ¿Qué hará el justo si las fundaciones de su vida son destruidas? Llegará la ruina. Y su casa se caerá, porque Él lo ha declarado. Desde el principio Dios estableció la primera institución fue la familia. The first institution God gave us was the family. First, He gave us a relationship with Him. Primero nos dio una relación con Él. Y después nos dio una institución. Pero antes que nos puso la relación con nosotros. He gave us that institution, but not before He established that there needs to be a relationship with me. Adam, I'm going to teach you all these things. Before Eve ever got there. Antes que Eva llegó. Dios no esperó a enseñar a Adán antes que llegara. Eva no le enseñó todo primero. God taught him everything first. Había establecido un orden. God had established an order. First Peter chapter 3. Read it in English, I'll read it in Spanish. I'm going to read it all to verse 7, and then I'm going to make some commentaries. Lo voy a leer todo hasta el versículo 7 y vamos a hacer unos comentarios. Y hay mucho que decir todavía y no hay tiempo hoy. There's a lot to say and there's not enough time today. This is a series. Why am I staying so long in this series? ¿Por qué me demoro tanto en esta serie? Que para algunos es incómodo. And for some it's very uncomfortable. Because it started in Genesis. Porque empezó en Génesis. Jesús habló y enseñó acerca de esta institución. Jesus taught us about this institution. It is the foundation of the family. It is the foundation of a civilization. Without it, the civilization will fall. Es la fundación de una familia y sin la familia, la sociedad cae. Ejemplo, Sodoma y Gomorra. The example, Sodom and Gomorrah. Completely disintegrated in its morals, its principles, and its practices. Completamente se desintegró en su moral, sus prácticas, y todo se destruyó. Dios lo juzgó de manera severa. God judged them severely. God has told us, don't forget Sodom and Gomorrah. Dios nos ha dicho, no te olvides de Sodoma y Gomorra. No te olvides. Don't forget that. You say, well, I'm not like Sodom. I'm not a Sodomite. No, but you begin to deviate from the plan of God. You're going in that direction. No, tú quizás no eres un sodomita, pero empiezas a desviarte del plan de Dios y estás de rumbo a ese camino. Rumbo a la desobediencia, rumbo al apartarse de la fundación que Dios ha puesto. You are in direction, you are in an azimuth, as we would say in the army. You are on a path, you have shot an azimuth in the direction away from God. That's where you're going. Let's read. Asimismo, ustedes mujeres. Likewise, ye wives. Notice that he begins with the women. Nota que él comienza con la mujer. ¿Por qué? Why? Oh, you're not going to maybe understand at first. Listen to what God tells you. From His word, you'll get the point. Escucha lo que Dios te dice desde su palabra y entenderás el punto. Pero primero empieza con la mujer. He begins with the women. Asimismo, ustedes, mujeres, están sujetas a vuestros maridos, para que también los que no creen a la palabra sean ganados sin palabra por la conducta de sus esposos. Asimismo, ustedes, mujeres, están sujetas a vuestros maridos, para que también los que no creen la palabra sean ganados sin palabra por la conducta de sus esposas. Hay algunas que quieren ser el pastor y el sacerdote de su marido, porque dicen, yo me justifico porque él no es sabio, yo sí, por tanto yo me voy a hacer la cabeza de él y yo lo voy a instruir a él. There are some that say, well, I'm going to take charge here, I'm going to be the priest and the preacher of my home because my husband doesn't know the Lord, so I'm going to do it this way. That's not what God says. Eso no es lo que Dios dijo. You have to understand, you have to believe. Tú tienes que entender, tú tienes que creer que Dios ha puesto una manera de hacer las cosas. Pero a veces nos creemos más sabios que Él. A veces pensamos que somos justificados en hacer algo distinto porque pensamos que los resultados se justifican con Dios. We take other measures and other means because we think, well, we know better, and you'll see the results will speak for themselves, the results will be justified. No, they're not. No. This is what God said. He's talking to the fact that there's a temptation for women to say, well, there's a reason and I'm going to take charge here. Empieza con la tentación de que a veces la mujer dice, bueno, yo voy a tomar aquí el liderazgo porque hay razón. No. No. It's not justified. Verse 2. Considerando vuestra conducta casta y respetuosa. No solamente lo que estás diciendo, pero cómo te portas. He's not only talking to the ladies about what they say, but how they conduct themselves. The last word that I'm reading here in Spanish is to respect. La última palabra aquí que estoy leyendo en español es respetuosa. Algunas mujeres le faltan tremendo respeto a sus maridos. A lot of women will disrespect their husbands and justify it. Muchas mujeres le faltarán el respeto a su marido y lo justificarán. I have a friend who was a missionary in Panama. Tengo un amigo que fue un misionero en Panamá. Varias veces me senté con él y many times I sat with him and asked him what's going on, and he would tell me, déjame decirte eso, no hay justificación por lo que él hizo, ninguna. Yo no lo justifico, a lo contrario, él está mal. Tú nunca puedes hacer mal pensando que soy justificado porque ellos me hicieron mal. Nunca es justificado. Nunca. Jamás. You have to understand, he would try and justify himself for what he did. And let me say this: you're never justified for doing wrong because somebody else has done wrong. You never. What he did was completely wrong. It's unacceptable and it's inexcusable. Lo que él hizo era inexcusable, injusto. Porque lo que él sentía en contra de su esposa, because of what he felt against his wife, what he had said to me, lo que él sentía en contra de ella, echó a perder el testimonio que tiene con todo el resto del mundo y con sus hijos. Because everything that he said that supposedly in his eyes justified his actions because of his wife, what he did is unjust before the world and everybody that knew his testimony and his own kids. He failed. And failed. God will send you a test. Dios te mandará una prueba. Esa prueba no es para que te justifiques y hazlo mal. Esa prueba es para saber que tú vas a hacer lo correcto sin importar lo mal que venga. Sin importar quién te hace el mal. That trial that God will send you is a trial to say, no matter what they did to you, no matter what happens, I'm still going to do the right thing. I'm not going to take the wrong road. I refuse to do the wrong thing. No matter what I think somebody did to me. It's never right. God didn't do anything to you. Why do you violate his laws? Why do you violate his ways? Why do you grieve him? Because they grieve you, that's it, right? ¿Por qué vas a entristecer a Dios? ¿Qué te hizo él? Si esa persona te entristeció a ti, ¿por qué vas tú a entristecer a Dios? Eso es justificado. It's not justified. You're grieving God because somebody grieved you. He's testing you. There's no excuse. No excusa. Él me decía cuánto ella le faltaba el respeto, cuánto ella quiso tomar las riendas de la casa, cuánto ella lo avergonzaba en público. He was telling me how much she disrespected him, how much in public she would try to take the reins and subjugate him and minimize him and rule over him. There's no excuse. No excuse. You take it to God. Lo llevas al Señor. And you give it to him. Lo llevas al Señor y se lo das a él. Hay una mujer que vamos a hablar de ella en otro lugar. We're going to talk about a lady in the future. Her name is Abigail. Una mujer que se llama en la Biblia Abigail. Tremendo ejemplo. What a great testimony and example that woman was. Her husband was a mess. Su marido era un desastre. Ella hizo lo sabio y preservó la vida de su familia. She did the wise thing and preserved the life of her family. David was coming for them. David was very angry. David was important. David venía por su familia. David estaba bien enojado y David es un tremendo guerrero. Y venía con el propósito de aniquilar toda la familia de ella. Venía con ese propósito. He was coming to annihilate her family. But she didn't confront him disrespectfully. Ella no lo enfrentó con una falta de respeto. Vino humildemente ante David. She came humbly to David. And we will look at the words that she said and the motives in her heart later. Because of her, David's anger was pacified and he turned away and left it in God's hands. Por la conducta y la sabiduría de esa mujer, David se le apaciguó la ira y se apartó. Y dejó el asunto en las manos de Dios. Y Dios, como cuentas con él. He left it in God, or David left it in God's hands, and God took care of evil. One woman, very wise woman, came to David and saved her family. Not by confronting him and telling him who you think you are. She came to him humbly saying, please consider this. Ella vino no mandando a nadie, faltando el respeto, una mandona. diciéndole quién tú crees que tú eres. Ella vino humildemente a David y por tanto salvó su familia. Because of her wisdom, because of her humility, because of her appealing to God, his God, she saved her family. Por cuanto ella le suplicó al Dios de David, por cuanto ella vino humildemente y respetuosamente al hombre que venía para hacerle daño a su familia, ella salvó su familia. Because of the way she came, she saved her family. Versículo 3, considerando vuestra conducta casta y respetuosa. Verse 2, considering, while you behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear. Should be, it could be in Spanish, translated her conduct. Consider her conduct, her chaste manner of conduct, and her respect. Verse 3. Vuestro atavío no sea el externo de peinados ostentosos y de adornos de oro y de vestidos lujosos. In verse 3, he says how you present yourself and how you adorn yourself or how you dress yourself. Whose adorning, let it not be that of outward adorning, or said, don't be shallow, no seas superficial. Adorning of plaiting of the hair and wearing of gold and putting on apparel, da-da-da-da. Él está diciendo, he's saying here, don't be shallow, don't just be an outward appearance and expression and impression. It's not about that, he's about to explain. Él está diciendo, no sea que lo hagas superficialmente lo de afuera, pero que sea de la persona íntima, interior. Versículo 4 dice, verse 4 will tell us, sino el interno es el corazón. In verse 4 it says, but let it be the hidden man of the heart. Don't be an outward expression and a shallow person, but inside you're totally different. No seas que por fuera representas una cosa, pero por dentro eres una persona completamente distinta. Hermanas, está hablando con ustedes. Ladies, it's talking to you. Sino el interno del corazón, el incorruptible ornato de un espíritu afable y apacible, que es de grande estima delante de quién, de Dios. Recuerda, la persona que tú quieres impresionar es Dios. Here he says, let it be the hidden man. Nobody sees that. Nobody knows who you are except you do when the lights are on by yourself. Of the heart, and that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God a great price. Remember, you're trying to impress one and one only, that's God. You live for the audience of one. Vives por la audiencia de uno, es Dios. Tú eres quien tú eres cuando nadie está contigo y las luces están apagadas. Esa es la persona quien tú eres. You are who you are when the lights are out and there's nobody with you. That is who you are when you're by yourself. And your plans and your motives and your desires, that is who you are. Planes, tus pensamientos, tus motivos cuando estás sola. Esa es la persona que tú eres. What are you planning? What do you want? What are you planning? What do you want? What do you esteem? ¿Qué estás planeando? ¿Qué estimas? ¿Qué quieres? Que nadie sabe. Nobody knows except God. That is who you are. Esa es la persona que tú eres. Porque así también se ataviaban en otro tiempo aquellas santas mujeres. Porque así también se ataviaban en otro tiempo aquellas santas mujeres. In verse 5, he says, for after this manner in old time, the holy women also. Who do you align yourself with? The modern day feminist? You align yourself with the women of old that understood the old way that God had established. remember, God is the same yesterday, forever. He doesn't change. Fashions and styles and trends will change. God never changes. His values are the same forever. Las modas, las influencias, todos cambian. Pero recuerda una cosa, Dios nunca cambia. Él es el mismo ayer, hoy y para siempre. Él no ha cambiado. Entonces, ¿con quién te alineas? And so then, who do you align yourself with? Because your attitude of the 21st century feminist is not new. It's not new. There's nothing new in this. Tu alinearte con el feminismo del siglo XXI no es nada nuevo. No hay nada nuevo bajo el sol. No hay nada nuevo bajo el sol. Si lees el libro de Jeremías, if you read the book of Jeremiah toward the end, you're going to see that one of the greatest influences in that society that was corrupt were the women and who they were worshiping, and their husbands led them. Their husbands led them. Vas a ver en el libro de Jeremías que una de las peores influencias en esa cultura que Dios tuvo que castigar severamente fueron las mujeres. Las mujeres estaban adorando a la reina del cielo y sus maridos la estaban dejando. The women were worshiping the queen of heaven and their husbands were letting them do it. They said, haven't we gotten our husband's position or our husband's permission, is what they said. And the husbands are no dijeron las mujeres que lo estamos haciendo y nuestros maridos nos han permitido, y los maridos no dijeron nada. There's a saying in this world, so wrong. Happy wife, happy life. Happy wife, happy life. That's a lie. That's a lie. El dicho es, mujer contenta, una vida contenta. Es una mentira. Happy God, happy life. Dios contento, una vida contenta. Adán trató de contentar a su esposa. Adam tried to content his wife. What happened to the rest of us? Adán intentó contentar a su esposa. ¿Y qué nos pasó a nosotros en el entonces? Algunos dicen, bueno, yo lo hago porque estoy cansado de el así que por lo tanto quiero paz en mi casa, así que me callo. And some husbands will say, well, I just want peace in my house, and so in order to get that, I'm just going to be quiet, and I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to make any waves. You're not going to be happy if you do that. It's impossible. Look with me in Proverbs 21. Vaya conmigo por Proverbios 21. You think you'll be happy? You're not going to be happy. You're just going to pacify the situation. You're not going to be happy. Vas a apaciguar el asunto, pero no te vas a contentar. Proverbs 21. Proverbios 21. Versículo 9. Verse 9. You turn there to Proverbs in Spanish. 21. Verse 9. Verse 9, read in English, I'll read in Spanish. Mejor es vivir en un rincón del terrado que con una mujer mentirosa en casa espaciosa. Mejor es que te vivas solo en el rincón del terrado, aparte de ella, aparte de todo el mundo, simplemente una esquinita, que con una mujer preciosa en una casa espaciosa. God is saying, it's better for you to just live in the corner all by yourself, with a little piece of tranquility there, instead of a house with an angry and falling one. Just get away. So peace. And that's what some guys do. Y eso es lo que hacen algunos hombres. Sí, señor. All right. You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. You're always right. Siempre estás en lo correcto. Siempre tienes la razón. Déjeme callarme en la esquina. Para que haya paz. Eso es lo que hacen. Bajan la cabeza, se van a la esquina, que para que haya paz tienen razón. Y lo dicen. They'll tell you. Oh, the man's always got to be the one that says, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Really? Is that what Adam should have done? ¿De veras eso lo que debía haber hecho Adán? No, he looked in the God of heaven who had taught him, who gave him his wife, who brought her to him, who said, name her, and I'm going to name her after you. She is Adam. Your surname, your last name is her name. And he says, I'm going to listen to her instead of you. Mira la cara de Dios, quien lo hizo, lo formó y lo instruyó antes que trajo la mujer. Y le dijo, ahí te la traigo, ese es tu cuerpo, tú la vas a nombrar y ella va a ser nombrada bajo de tu apellido, tu nombre. Pero has hecho caso a ella antes que a mí. And we think that's right. And we justify that. Y nosotros pensamos, y los pastores lo están diciendo. And the pastors keep saying it, and they keep knocking the man off the place that God told him, you're the head of the home. I'm calling you responsible. And God said, I brought sin into the whole world. Excuse me, you brought sin into the world, Adam. All men after you have died, not all women. Sin came from you. You're the one responsible. Dios le dice a Adán, tú eres el responsable. Todos los hombres después de ti han incurrido el pecado por tu pecado. La culpa la tienes tú. La responsabilidad lo puso sobre él. You are responsible, sir. Señor, tú tienes la responsabilidad. Byron's wife did not help him. Byron had no excuse. La esposa de Byron tenía tremenda culpa, pero Byron no tenía razón por hacer lo que hizo. He goes out and gets another woman, a young girl in the church. He ruins the testimony to the church. He's a missionary. He's a man of God. And he ruins the testimony of God before all his people because of his selfishness, because he couldn't handle the trial and find out, where am I wrong? What am I supposed to do? No matter what she's doing, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to conduct myself? I am supposed to be a man of God. What am I supposed to do? He didn't do that. He just said, I'm just going to testify myself. And he told me to my face, don't say nothing to me, because I'm going to do what I did, and I did it deliberately. That's what he did. Él fue y arruinó el testimonio que tenía como hombre de Dios en muchas iglesias a través de este hemisferio. Y en vez de delante de Dios decir, bueno, esto es lo que me está pasando, ¿cuál es la culpa mía? ¿Qué es lo que debo yo hacer? Él me dijo a mi cara, yo lo hago deliberadamente. Deliberadamente él pecó contra Dios y él trastornó el testimonio que tenía. Lo violó. He deliberately ruined his testimony. He deliberately disobeyed God. Deliberately. He is so wrong. He is so wrong. Él está tan equivocado, tan mal por lo que hizo. Él tomó, es como si viene un misionero. It's like a missionary comes here now. And we all think he's this great missionary. He's got this great church and great orphanage and great schools, and he's done all these great things. Es como si viene un misionero de otro lugar y tiene un orfanato, tiene un instituto, tiene una tremenda iglesia, tiene un tremendo ministerio, y viene a esta iglesia y se lleva una de las jovencitas. Y se lleva una de esas jovencitas. Y divorcia a su esposa. Una de tus hijas. He comes in here and he takes one of your daughters. And he divorces his wife. Is that a testimony? Ese es su testimonio. De veras. Él no tiene excusa. He has no excuses. None. None. She didn't help the situation. God gave her to him to be a helpmeet. Now she tried to run his life. He's got his own faults. But he took that and said, I'm using that as an excuse, and it really did. There's no excuse. Ella tomó el liderazgo del hogar. Cuando Dios la hizo a ella ayuda idónea para él, en vez de ser ayuda idónea, tomó las riendas o quiso tomar las riendas del hogar, y él lo tomó como justificación para dejarla ahí. Él no tiene excusa. Continuamos la semana que viene. We will continue this next week. There's a lot here. Oh, there's a lot more. Hay mucho más. From Proverbs, let's go on. Verse 19, versículo 19. Mejor es morar en tierra quieta que con la mujer preciosa e iracunda. Verse 19. It's better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and an angry woman. Better just go live in the desert. It's awful hot out there. It's awful dry. But he says, it's better for you to just go live in the desert somewhere than to live with a woman who's going to be contentious all the time trying to rule your life. Es muy caliente allá afuera, muy árido, muy seco. Pero dices, es mejor vivir en el desierto que con una mujer renciosa y contenciosa. Es mejor que te vayas solo allá afuera en el desierto. Y con una mujer que siempre te ataca. Than to live with a woman that's always on. It's just better to live in the desert. When your husband quieres ganar a tu esposo, Dios te dijo cómo hacerlo. Dios te dijo cómo hacerlo. God told you how to do it. Dios te dijo cómo hacerlo en el libro de Pedro. Te dijo que lo hiciese con tu conducta, no con tu boca. God says, do it with your conduct, not your mouth. Do it with your conduct, not your mouth. That's what he said. But people get angry. Oh, that's so machoist. That's so much being a, what do you call it? They used to call it, it's a chauvinist. Eres tanto chauvinista. Eres tan machista. Eres tan... No. God didn't tell the man to beat his wife. God didn't tell the man to destroy his wife. He said, love the wife. It is love when you try to do what a man's supposed to do. It is love. You just don't see it that way. Because you want to do it your way. Es amor cuando el hombre es el líder del hogar. Y es amor cuando él trata de cuidarle, de protegerle y todo eso. Eso sí es amor. Pero el mundo no lo ve así. Porque la influencia del mundo ha entrado en la cabeza de la gente. Y no creen, dicen, no, yo tengo que tomar mi control. That's the problem. You don't understand God's ways, you see it your way. Y esa es la cosa que no lo entiendes de la manera de Dios, lo ves de tu manera. Continuaremos esto la semana que viene. We will finish this next week. No, we won't. I won't. There's more. Hay mucho más. Vamos a entrar en el sexualismo del hombre. We're going to look at man's sexuality. Yeah, it's in the Bible. Está en la Biblia. Vamos a ver la actitud del hombre. We're going to look at the attitude of a man. Vamos a ver la conducta del hombre. We're going to see the conduct of a man. Vamos a ver la valentía del hombre. We're going to look at the valor of a man. Vamos a ver la responsabilidad del hombre. We're going to look at the responsibility of a man that God has set order. You cannot have the family in disorder and expect your society will be in order. It's impossible. You will pay the price in your society, and your children will too. Tú no puedes esperar que tu casa esté fuera de orden y que tu sociedad fuera de tus puertas estará en orden. Tu sociedad llegará a la ruina por cuanto el núcleo está en tu casa. Your house will be in disarray because of the nucleus. Or excuse me, your society will be in disarray because of the nucleus that's happening in your home. You can't change that. You know, guys, some of them are cowards. Hay muchos hombres hoy día tremendos cobardes. No te digo que vengas con fuerza a tu casa, eso está bien equivocado. I'm not telling you to go with force in your home, but there's a lot of guys, I see it every day. I manage 300 some odd people. I see the attitudes. Yo veo las actitudes, yo manejo 300 y pico de personajes. Y yo veo cómo ha caído la actitud, la conducta de los hombres. I see how men have failed and have fallen from their position. They have abdicated their responsibilities. Ellos han abdicado sus responsabilidades.
We'll continue this. Oh, there's a lot more, maybe 4 weeks more. We're going to look at Abigail. We'll look at a lot of people. Vamos a mirar a Abigail. Muchos. We're going to see some examples that God said, this is the way, this is the responsibility, this is what I said.
Para que suplicamos, Señor, por favor. En estos días turbulentos, donde el mundo te aborrece y quieren borrar todos tus principios. God, in this day when men abhor you and they want to erase your principles, cuando a la gente le parece que lo que está equivocado está bien, when people today think and feel that what is wrong is actually right. Hoy cuando los hombres se tratan de justificar, today when people try to justify themselves, haznos entender sus caminos. Help us understand your ways. Not just know it, but understand it. Solamente conocerlo, pero de verdad entenderlo. Y vivirlo. God, not just to know it, but to understand it and live it. God, I want to be the man you want me to be. If you don't do that for me, I will be doing it. Si tú no haces eso por mí, si tú no me haces el hombre que tú quieres que yo sea, yo llegaré a la vida. I will be doing it. I am nothing without you. I'm no one without you. Yo no soy nada. Yo no soy nada sin ti. Yo no soy nadie sin ti. Sin ti yo no vivo. Without you I don't live. Sin ti no tengo nada. With you I don't have anything. I need you to make me who you want me to be. Te necesito que me hagas de mí quien tú quieres que yo sea. Y te pido por tu iglesia. And I ask you for your church. Danos corazones dispuestos. God, give us hearts that are willing de aceptar y recibir y vivir tu camino, tus planes. To know, to love, and to receive, and to live your ways in our lives. Para tu gloria, for your glory, y para nuestro, y for our good. En el nombre de Jesús, en el nombre de Jesus.